Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast. We have a repeat offender on the podcast today. We are bringing back Lee from Cyborg Security. He's a senior threat hunter and content developer over there. Lee, just weird background. You were episode number 164. We are pushing 300 now. You came in March of 2022, had a great response, and we wanted to bring you back. So thank you so much for being back on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Since March 2022, a lot has happened, but I'm eager to talk more.
Perfect. Lee, that's my first question. What have you been up to since the last time you were on the Cyber Pro podcast?
Ooh, so I think I can remember what I was doing in March 2022. I had just submitted my application to get accepted to Black Hat USA to conduct our Cyborg Security's Threat Hunter training. A couple months or a month later, I was accepted. I got word that I was. And then that whole year was basically building that up, building that, and then actually delivering it. So I got to do the training here or at Black Hat 2023.
That's amazing. And for everyone out there who is in the cyber professional world, we kind of all know what Black Hat is, but why is it so cool that you got an opportunity to do some training at Black Hat?
So I guess the cool level, I gotta say, Black Hat seems to me to be the almost like SANS certification training. Is like you're gonna have people that are going there to learn on bonus side on the company's side. So you have what I think, now I may be wrong in saying that, but what that tells me is that it's telling me that organizations are investing in their employees and they're investing in themselves to get better at cybersecurity. So by sending people to Black Hat in the USA, which is one of the biggest cybersecurity conferences out there, then I get to meet the people that are actually trying to take it back to their organization. And in a sense, I get to teach them, they get to get better, their organizations get to get better, and hopefully we can reduce the amount of breaches and, attacks that happen.
Love it. How has the cybersecurity landscape evolved over the past few years?
Past few years? Well, you definitely hear the words AI and machine learning and chat GPT now a lot more. With, whether it be from the attacks, whether it be from detections, the tools are improving. It seems like the security controls are becoming not less effective, but there's more CVEs coming out, right? So it's more and more vulnerabilities, which it's the security. That's what happens. We do something, threat actors adapt, we have to adapt, and so on. It's just constantly going on. But the one constant I see is the human factor in either in cybersecurity, in the SOC, threat hunters. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love it. So let's flip that a little bit and looking forward, are there any emerging trends or technologies or even approaches that you're excited about?
Not that I can think of. And honestly, because threat hunting in my job, we focus solely on the human aspect. Whenever you're threat hunting, you're not looking for vulnerabilities being exploited because that's going to happen, right? They're going to find a CV. It's going to continue. But what we're trying to focus on is the human aspect after that exploit happens. So whatever that vulnerability looks like when it's exploited, there's always a human factor afterwards. And that's really what we look forward to. So like I said, the constant is the human. There's a lot more tools coming out. There's a lot more malware. You could say toolkits with Brewer-Tell. Adversaries are changing their TTPs. But at the same time, we're also learning a lot. And once again, it's just looking for that human factor.
Nice. Lee, I'm going to ask you, you and I both, military, we get the acronyms. TTP, what does it stand for?
Tactics, techniques, and procedures. It's basically a plan that I want to say advanced adversaries follow. So basically they say, here's what we're going to do, or here's our goal, here's how we're going to achieve it. And it's basically a playbook to say, once we get on a compromised machine, what do we do next? Then how do we do it? And then that's basically how they work through the whole attack and get to their goals. That's basically what TTP is.
And would you agree that a major goal today is monetary, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I've read 3 or 4 articles about Lazarus Group just within a month or two, mainly focusing on cryptocurrency. Because whenever you, and not to get political here, but whenever you restrict trade with a country like that, I mean, they're gonna have to find a way to make money. And if they can't do it internally, they got to find a way to do it externally.
No, I love it. Lee, I'd like you to talk to me a little bit about, how you work with customers, how you look for indicators of concern or compromise, how you threat hunt, and why it's such a cool, opportunity for your customers to get access to you guys.
So the one thing that we provide, not just the initial queries, and all our initial queries can be found in the Hunter platform, which we have the community edition. So shameless plug, I guess. They can sign up for and get a subset of our queries. But the idea is we give you a package or a hunt package that has an initial query. Right? You throw that in your environment, whatever tool you're using, if you support it, and hopefully you don't get results because if it's a targeted attack, then that means you're probably compromised already. But if it's a general hunt idea, like looking for abnormal PowerShell usage, you might start finding results. But the idea is that we provide the initial query based on a hypothesis to get our customers started. Once they're there and once they get artifacts, that's how we start figuring out how to pivot through. Now, when I talk about pivoting, we don't have, threat hunting is like almost like an art form and like free flowing, where you got to take what you're dealing with when you have it. So whatever artifacts come, those are the things we're going to pivot off of. So if it's a process name, we're going to teach our customers to say, hey, look, we have this process. Now let's follow its trail. Let's find how it is related to other events, maybe than just this initial query. So let's just, for example, say we started out looking for an encoded PowerShell command, right? There's not a lot of artifacts within that. And our customers might come back and say, hey, we have all these encoded PowerShell commands, but what do we do next? My main goal is to say, well, first, let's decode this PowerShell command, right? It's by default, it's base 64. So I like to use Cyberchef and, decode it. And that's where the artifacts at. So once you pull those artifacts out from the obfuscated code, then you have something to pivot off. So if it's an executable, or if it's a file being created or downloaded from the internet, the logic there is, what do we do next? I like to push the idea that we're confirming, right? We see, did we reach out to GitHub? Did we reach out to Dropbox and download a file? Whatever the case may be, we want to confirm that it happened. Okay, so if they pulled down an executable, did it actually land on our box, or did security control stop it? And you can, look at, depending on your tools, file create event types, network connections to that DNS or to that IP. And then if it is an executable, we like to say, well, did it run? Yeah. So we'd like to take that executable name, create it or craft a new query around just that, and take a look at the trail. And there's a lot going on because you could have one artifact that leads to 4 or 5 different event types, which makes the threat hunting a little tougher and more detail oriented. But the idea is we're looking for relationships between the data. Now, that's a structured hunt. There's also something called an unstructured hunt, which is a little more in-depth, and I guess I would say more expert mode focused on tribal knowledge.
Fascinating. I love the way you kind of approach it. I also, when you said Cyberchef, could only think of the Swedish chef, Bork to Bork. So I feel like if I can find that, I'm going to superimpose that behind you when you say that word.
Like it.
Lee, final question, fun question for you. We've asked you about retro technology in the past, but what is your current piece of technology that makes you smile?
I gotta say, a virtual machine. I mean, It's simple. I mean, you need, a virtual box or whatever tool, but there's so much that I can find out from a virtual machine. And I can test, and I can detonate, and I can download malware and run it on it and not be worried about, infecting everything. But you could do so much on a virtual machine. I mean, it's very simple. Usually if you have logging enabled and you modify that, but there's just, for someone who's curious like me, who's always asking questions, I don't know. I like being able to get my hands on digital evidence, even though it's not tangible, because I'm kind of a literal person. But a virtual machine allows me.
Nice. Lee, thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast again.
No, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Good night.
Thank you for tuning into the Cyber Pro podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on new podcasts and all of our cool bonus content.